curtain began to come down. One of the first major tracks behind it to see racing action was the Hungaroring. But this place lends itself to an iron defense with passing at a premium. Prepare to push hard and get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 13 Sport Class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Justin Prince. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. Well, we're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. PCA is also proud to announce that they are celebrating their 70th anniversary in 2025. Here's to many more decades with North America's largest Porsche enthusiast group. Well, Justin, it's just this one and one more to wrap up the season.
Pressure's on absolutely to be able to perform and do well. We've seen a variety of styles of racing so far this season. But the Hungaroring is going to be, as you said in the intro, going to be difficult to pass. Going to make things very tricky for these competitors if they want to be able to race up at the front. You better be able to qualify well tonight, and the pressure's definitely on to perform well. So you set yourself up for a solid championship finale at Imola.
Yeah, track position going to be so key here today, and if we take a look at the track, you'll see why there are not many long straights here at the Hungaroring. From the final corner down into turn one, pretty much it. You might see drivers try to be brave into four. That is going to be a very difficult ask. Turn six, the break into the chicane, sometimes offers some things, but again, you got to be very sneaky. And then finally, turn 12 might offer a chance or two if you're very close to the driver ahead. So we expect those pit stops to be very critical today. Now, the other interesting thing about all of this, look at the top six. 110 points separate those top six. Now, that might sound like a lot, but it is 350 points for a win. With only this and one more round left, it is incredibly tight. Any of those top six drivers are easily in the hunt for the title. From there on down, it'll take something dramatic for Owens, Casey on Lopez, or to find themselves up in the winning position at the end of it. Of course, we have the clean drivers battle as well, Justin. Another fiercely fought for a title in this one.
Interesting enough, Carl Lopez, only 2 incidents in terms of the clean driver statistics on the season. But you also have some other drivers that have shown very clean runs. Jeremy Hall and Pierre Yurtsev up towards the front. But you also have drivers like Estepinian showing consistency, not just in speed, but also keeping the car somewhat clean and limiting track mistakes, like the 22 incident points to his clean driver statistics on the season. Season 6, not bad.
Absolutely. And then, of course, for the overall, that's for all 4 classes, look at Kenneth Eskridge. A single incident over the course of the season. They do have drop weeks for this as well, but that's still massively impressive. In fact, looking at those top 6, only 4 incident points at the most for Dale Green back there. Plenty of drivers, Velez, Hales, Sherburne, all tied on 3 incidents. The difficulty in that is that you can't do anything to cut in on those that are ahead. You have to hope that they make mistakes and then just keep it as clean as you can. So that's going to be fascinating to watch as we carry on. But we got a little bit of a mistake here from the 113 coming down. Jake Gerbino, who was quickest in the warm-up session, apparently going to have to reset and get back out there. This is a modern F1 track here, Justin, so I imagine trying to avoid those off tracks in qualifying, it could be so critical.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be important to get good track position for the race, as touched upon in the intro, but it's also going to be important to make sure once you have that, you know the flows of this racetrack. Seen especially some of the competition when filling in with seeing the open side with pros last week, that it was very difficult to get a pass with the aero push you would find in traffic. The closer you get, the harder it was for these drivers to be able to make some moves. So for these competitors, it's going to be extremely important to make sure these laps come down as quick as they can if they want to be able to have a good night tonight.
Still don't have any times on the board as they get 10 minutes total to try and set a fast lap, and 3 laps. Any more than those 3 laps, and you're not going to see them counted so that you can continue, but obviously you're not seeing any improvement from there. If you do find any to come off the final corner down to the timing line, which is very early on the straight. They do this F1 style here at Hungaroring, so it's the early timing line that you'll see these lap times be picked up by. This looks like Paul starting his first flying lap, which means it's going to be a bit tight here to get all 3 of them in. It does take a bit to get around this track, not in an open wheeler, Justin.
Yeah, for reference, on the times in the practice session, drivers ran around 1 minute 44s, 1 minute 46s at the bottom end. So if you're up on it, should be able to get them in theory. Did see drivers get them in with a little bit of tightness in some of the action last week. So that being said here, so easy for the car. Just carry off the circuit if you can't keep the rhythm and be able to keep it at full pace. It's going to be so critical all night long, and especially this qualifying, to know where those limits are. Read those extra limits to be able to read that rule book. Make sure you know what to expect around the circuit.
Jeremy Main just completing that first hot lap now, coming around the final corner. Let's see what kind of time he's able to set. He's going to be among the first to cross that line. And for him, it's a 46.2. Picking up for 7th, Ben Bulkley on the provisional pole. Jeremy Hall just behind him by a quarter of a second. But Aaron Sunday moves into that second spot onto the front row as well. Not too surprised to see Sunday up there. He's been having a decent season, although last round did not get the result he was looking for with only 180 points scored and a 350 maximum, remember. So he'll need to do better than that to try and separate himself before the final round. What about Gerbino here? Did he manage to set a time on that first one? Yes, a 45-1.
Yeah, not bad at all for Gerbino after leading the way in the final practice. We learned in this final corner, you can find a lot of speed if you get the right arc in double apexing to potentially move yourself up that pylon. It's just a matter of if you're able to actually get that grip together compared to a flat entry or a more wider arc some people have tried throughout the week. We'll have to keep an eye on Will Wolf, though already having a bit of the bobbles right now at the moment, it looks like.
Yeah, didn't set a time yet, did Wolf. Dean Chapman might be able to take the pole away from Bulkley. I saw him improving. We're watching Gilles Estupinian, who is our current championship leader, but all of by 30 points over Mehmet Karaçay. Both of them are here today. Mehmet only down in 13th right now. Gilles is coming around to try and complete lap number 2. Let's see where this winds up putting him. He's in 11th, only 2 positions ahead of Karaçay, so he also needs to jump forward. 45.2, 2/10 quicker, but that's only good enough for 10th.
A little bit surprising right now, has to be able to go up on the wheel. It's not going to be a lot of time to do so as Paul Cavanaugh, look at that, he's up to 2nd on the pylon. By far, Cavanaugh's best qualifying run of the season, and we know he's fairly consistent at these types of tracks. How about that from quali?
And Gerbino has topped them all, though. In fact, he goes quite a bit quicker for a while with Cavanaugh in there. Our top 3 were separated by less than 1/10 of a second, but it is now over 2/10. And Gerbino abandons his final lap, I can report, so he's not going to be able to take it any quicker, leaving himself vulnerable to other drivers potentially snatching that back here on the 3rd and final lap.
Yeah, it looks like already some drivers already backing into the garage, like Gerbino and Binkley all electing to go into the garage area. Some drivers like McDonald here just not looking like they're in the best of rhythm right now to be able to try and move up. 37.2, to be a little bit quicker from that first sector if he wants a true setup for those months on the screen right now. But it's going to get close at the pylon here for these drivers in a moment.
This is Casey McDonald sitting in 19th position, about 1.2 seconds off the pole currently. Needs to make up just a quarter of a tenth of a second to get at least one more position. Showing him improving by nearly 3/10 right now. So yeah, he's going to have a big jump up the field if he can keep this improvement going around the final corner. A 45.8 last time becomes a 45.6 this time by 0.2 faster. That's going to move him into 17th.
He's into his qualifying run. Most drivers already finishing up their laps, in fact. Karachai, going to be interesting for him. 15th position, but Estepinen did not do much better in 11th.
Yeah, I remember them racing a little bit better than they qualify these last couple rounds. So maybe that's what will happen today. Although, as we've been pointing out, starting towards the back of the pack, Charlie Ferrer, who sits in 12th, has already taken his 3 laps. Carlos Lopez just finished his 3rd, but he jumps up to 15th with that, a 45.6. That's a nice improvement from him, up from 19th. Let's see if we have anybody else that is still trying to finish a lap. I see Ankerberg Zona is on his 3rd lap. And it looks like Thomas Doherty should have enough time, I think, just barely to get one more in, although it's going to be tight.
Yeah, at this point, I think Thomas just wants to get a run in, just like Charlie Ferrer just wants to get some warm-ups in. You know, get yourself some experience. But yeah, make sure you use this extra time for a couple of these drivers' cases to know where else can I find speed? Where else can I find rhythm? How are these tires going to feel in a few laps?
Lopez,
I think that's why we're seeing... Go ahead.
Sorry about that. But yeah, Lopez is another one that's already completed all 3 of his laps, so he's done. Anchor is just coming down the start-finish line right now, and he's got a 45.9. That is an improvement, in fact, by 2 seconds. Woo, he is got a huge jump there. That's going to put him into 21st. Thomas Doherty, 30 seconds. Yeah, I don't think he's actually going to get to the line. I think that's it, Justin, for all of our drivers able to complete a lap.
Great run for Garbino, though, you have to say. The only person who can set a time is 27. And Doherty had not set up anything in regards to final practice, so we'll have to keep an eye on if there's any chance of a clean lap for the 27. They're out of time, too. So, you can say this for the very least. A lot of different drivers going to be up front than usual, Joe. This will make things interesting.
Absolutely will. And before we get to our grid, we do want to talk about our next upcoming event that is outside of Series 13. That is, of course, a special event we have on May 4th at Spa. Let's take a look at it.
Spinning into the westward chute.
Now, while this is, of course, not related to the Team Racing Series, it is PCA Region co-sponsored, and it's got support from PCA Racing in general. Operation Motorsport's benefit event will be a 6-hour race on Sunday, May 4th, of course, at Spa-Francorchamps, as you can see from our promo. For more information, go to pcasimracing.com/opmo6hours, or if you're looking to register, head on over to tinyurl.com/opmo2025. Operation Motorsports, veteran recovery through motorsport. Fantastic organization, I must say. And now that we've taken a look at that, let's bring us back here. And Justin, you want to talk us around a lap on board with Gerbino at the Hungaroring?
Yes, indeed. A 1:44.5 was that pole time. Gerbino throughout the session, very quick. But quickly gets himself to the gears, arcs it down to be able to make a switch to the first corner. Use a little bit of the green AstroTurf just to touch the left side tires for the exit. Before you make your way up to one of the main passing opportunities today. Turn 3 going to be a chance for drivers if they're brave. In this case, Gerbino getting an arc for the corner exit before heading up to the right-hander. Use the right side tires up against the curb. Put yourself the left sides against the green AstroTurf. Now, after this point, it's because very rhythmistic, where you have to get the speed down to the coast, get it across the right side rumble strips, get a decent arc set up for when it comes to the quick S coming up. This is going to be an area that's a bit of a bottleneck. To be able to slow down right, not get the wrong angle. You get the wrong angle, that's going to be at least half a tenth or half a second there as a result. So that leads you into sector 3. Quick flick to the right, then back up to the speed as they set things up for the final portion of the racetrack, where you have to carry momentum on the coast in third gear, move your way through the gears before a hard braking zone right at the braking board there, or in between the 150. In fact, use the right-hander to be able to build some speed. In this case, didn't use too much runoff space. Then second to last corner, try to get an arc down. In this case, just gets a good, decent arc, gets a good run out of the corner before that final corner. We talked about the potential of the double apex. In this case, he puts it in for a flat cut to the right to get the corner exit.
And that's how you get the pole here in the sport class. Awesome stuff there by Jake Gerbino to take the fastest lap of the session by a decent margin as well. Let's go through that starting order. Jake Gerbino on the top spot will be flanked by Ben Bulkley. To his outside, Paul Cavanaugh. Then has Dean Chapman sitting in fourth, as Lee Binkley will be fifth, and Aaron Sunday starting from sixth. That'll be a great position for him for the title hopes, as Jeremy Hall starts in seventh and Alan Owens in eighth. Row 5 sees Jonathan Kuo to the inside, Marcel Yunus running out your top 10. Gilles Estupinian only 11th there, with 12th for Charlie Ferrer next to him, as Chad Casion starts from 13th. It's Nathan Albuhaka in P14 and Carlos Lopez in 15th. Leonard Karachai also back there, hoping to try and do better than 16th in qualifying. He sits second in the points. Mike Saxtein, or we like to just refer to him as Mike Sax, will start 17th. Casey McDonald will be in P18. From there, it's Kevin Orr in the 19th position, Jeffrey Gardner in 20th. Ankerberg Zona starts from 21st, as Andrew Long will be 22nd. Behind them, 12th row sees Randy Lervold 23rd and Will Wolf in 24th. Just a couple more cars as Christopher Costas starts 25th today, Jeremy Main 26th, Donald Manning in 27th position, and Jeff Williams in 28th. Then it's Will Mungia, P29. Top 30 going to be rounded up by Chris Drankovic. Final two, Thomas Doherty failed to set a time. Andrew Elsom, need to check and see if he is actually in the session. Looks like he is, so hopefully he will be able to start the race, because I know he was missing for a bit there. And we've got pretty decent weather conditions here, Justin. So that's the good news. At least they're not dealing with a super hot track with how twisty it is around here.
Not too bad, about 73 degrees Fahrenheit for reference on the 23 degrees Celsius. So pretty standard for this season. To keep things not too bad, but in a good spot where you have a good amount of grip in the early morning conditions. So it's all going to make things extremely interesting, though, when it comes to the racing today, to see how will drivers bear out my apologies there, as these drivers will see if they have to say my apologies to some contact in the early going with how crazy these starts can be.
Yeah, well, hope they don't have any hiccups out there, and if somebody could maybe bring a glass of water up to the booth, Justin. We'll see if we can get those sorted out as the drivers have a short pace lap before they are released. 60-minute race. Don't forget, they have a pit stop over the course of this event, and it should be a little bit of a wider window than what we saw back at Road America, because this is so little full throttle around this circuit. pace car is already in, but they have to wait for the wave of the green here. Does Jake Urbino in that 113. There it is early on the start-finish line. He gets a good jump over Ben Bulkley. He's single file, and it looks like somebody's got a huge run there in the background as we go 3 wide for farther down in the top 10. Coming into the first corner, this can often see problems in the real world. Big look up the inside from Bulkley on Urbino, but he will rebuff him. Back of the field looks good despite a little bit of 3 wide through there. Now they head down into 2 and 3.
Not bad of a start. Could have been worse for some of the drivers. Did not see the greatest of launches from Jeremy Hall back there, but everybody else being able to maintain pace, keep it clean, no off tracks, no major gets a contact. It looks like to start this one off. That's the top 2 to be trying to do what we've seen last week from some drivers do, break away as some of the others get busy battling.
Helen Owens already on the attack. That's Aaron Sunday on his outside. Can he outbrake him down to the chicane? Yes, he can. Vulnerable a little bit there, Sunday. That almost looked like Kua wanted to try and steal that one away from him, but no dice. They weave now through the back half of the track. This is where it really tightens up, Justin.
It's really difficult when it comes to the ebbs and flows and potential for some bottlenecking. So it's going to be where a lot of the packs break up today. Looks like some drivers looking to try and make some brave moves back in the field. That was Marcel Yunus that you see running out. Others, such as Jeremy Hall, trying to hold on. Charlie Ferrer's running up the road.
Estupinin's in a side-by-side battle coming down through 13 and 14 with Lee Binkley. He will come out ahead on that one. Meanwhile, just ahead of them, that is Jeremy Hall doing his best to run away. Here is Gilles Estupinin just ahead, or no, excuse me, Casey on ahead of Lee Binkley. So he managed to sneak by. Lee goes for the attack and loses 2 positions. Meanwhile, down to the inside, that is going to be Ben Bulkley, maybe losing out on 3rd. Remember, he started this race in P2. He's trying to just stay on the podium around the outside for Paul Cavanaugh on the bright yellow number 2 machine. If he can hang tough, he's going to get this P3. And yes, he has to get his elbows out, but he's there. Another position as doors bang between Owens and Bulkley. He falls all the way down to 5th. This is a disastrous start, Justin, for Ben.
Looked okay on lap 1, got worse lap 2. And that's what happens when you have a drafting track where, or rather a draft effect down turn into turn 1. At a track like this, so important to be able to get the position sealed up in this case. Bulkley kept it side by side for a good bit. Just had the wrong spot to be able to keep it side by side. And now we'll have to try and get his rhythm back from 5th.
So Andrew Elsom ran into some issues here on the first lap. And this looks like coming out of the chicane. I think maybe it's the next corner coming through 8 here. Car gets a little loose. He holds it off to the side. Thankfully, it looks like he's off the racing line and no one runs into him. What about Andrew Long, though? I think I saw a little bit of this, Justin, and unfortunately, it went disastrous.
You know, it's a disaster. Live action, look at the bottom corner. Long in the middle of the track is disastrous. Bulkley just spun around. It is disastrous. Start's got it worse. You see him in the bottom corner, stuck in the grass, nowhere to go.
Man. Things just going completely sideways for Ben. He falls all the way to 34th, and he has a bad rejoin. That was Andrew Long. Surely that's going to be some kind of penalty.
Yeah, I was about to say, right at the end before we changed shots there, you can tell that was going to be dangerous. That was a blind corner, at least, for Bulkley, you'd have to think. And that was not pretty.
Paul Cavanaugh also has fallen down the order about 19th position. Not sure what happened to him. He was involved in something. Here we go. We'll get our answer right away. Around the final turn. Car spins sideways. He's very vulnerable. Does he keep from getting hit? Just barely. Oh my goodness. The racing gods were smiling on him there. I thought for sure someone would wind up whacking into the side.
That could have been absolutely a big stack up there. With already the one spin up there sparking things, could have been much worse. Charlie Ferrer, by the way, it's going great for him. So far, no hiccups for him. Up 5 spots moving forward.
Yeah, so up to 7th, it looks like right now for him. Remember, he's sitting 3rd in the championship, about 50 points behind our points leader. So there is Andrew Long running into the side there of Ben Bulkley as he tries to come back onto the track. They do watch that closely, so I suspect that'll be an unsafe rejoin on the part of Ben. Meanwhile, continue to watch Ferrer. Next on his list is Jonathan Kuo. He's actually gained quite a few himself here at the start, up 3.
Yeah, we know Kuo's got speed. We've seen in a couple rounds this season. The big thing has been, well, making sure he stays in the conversation. A couple 320-point days on the season. This is the lowest he's been, really, since the first start of his season in terms of track position. So for Jonathan Kuo, not bad when it comes to his pace. The problem is, if he wants to match the leader's outright pace and some of the others on track, he needs to find a little bit more, a few tenths of a second, to be able to keep up his average. It's right now in the 1:45.5s. Leaders are running a second quicker than that.
Yeah, that is going to make a big difference, I suspect. We check in with Abu Haka, 6th in the championship. Oh, and also dipping a couple tires off. Don't forget they have incident limits in this series as well. So 25 incidents and you are DQ'd. Don't want to abuse those off tracks too often. Up to 9th for Abu Haka, another driver who has gained 5 since the start. That is Jeremy Hall, just in front of him in the white machine. And then Gilles Estupinian, our points leader, behind him. There's those 2 wheels off. Not often, Justin, you get away with that around here.
Yeah, usually on the off tracks, if you do it the wrong spot, it can send you absolutely spinning here. We've seen that a lot here at the Hungaroring. Fair, though, we mentioned on the move. He is right now just trying to line things up in Kuo. If you're making moves like this from 4 car rates back, you know that he knows the footsteps are coming from Ferrer to be able to close up, be able to gain some time, be able to close up corners like that one too, who are going to help Charlie Ferrer.
Charlie's yet to see victory lane this season in Series 13. Though he's come close. He's had 2 second places. He's had a 3rd. But he's yet to be on that top step. And it's looking a little bit distant now for him to do that today, with 9 seconds already up to the leaders. Not to mention that he's going to have to pass a few cars to try and get there. Checking back in with Abu Haka once again. Still chasing on Jeremy Hall. He's behind by about 0.3 of a second right now. Definitely threatening. And just a little bit of update on Ben Bulkley. If you ever wished, when you have a bad day, that you could just go back to bed and kind of roll over and forget about things, that's kind of what Ben has already done. He's retired the car despite not getting too damaged on it and still having a spare left. I think he decided not worth trying to salvage this one.
Yeah, not a surprise with the amount of contact between so early, going from the highest to highs to absolutely crushing lows. It's going to make things difficult for the rest of the campaign, to say the least. Obviously, going to be his drop round, but some of these are battles. Some of the drivers are starting to get a little bit aggressive, especially Karachai, who needs to go. He is stuck in place.
15th, he's only gained a single spot since the start of this race. He definitely needs to try and do something a little different. Maybe we'll see him try to use some strategy. We have seen in the previous races a few cars trying to duck in and actually managing to jump their competitors if they save a little bit of fuel. But you don't want to get stuck back in traffic if you do stop early. That's the big ask on trying to do that move out here. Also on the top screen, which we're going to go full screen on now, it appears to me, Justin, that Kuo is bottling up those behind him a little. He's lost Yunus by about 2 seconds. Ferrer, Hall, Abu Haka, now forming a bit of a train.
That can happen here. Just Choo-Choo trying to effects build up because it's so hard to pass. Come all group together in the same pace. The closer you get, the harder it is to be able to close up because of the aero wash effect. So to be able to break away from trains like this is just down to raw pace, but it also comes now down to for later on. It's where some of the strategy and planning really has to come into play a little bit, as Donald Manning looped it.
And taking some severe damage, it looks like. Kuo, another one that's been close to winning, but not quite there. 2 second places for him, but he missed the first 2 races, so he's only just kind of coming in and showing that he is a force to be reckoned with, but I'm not sure if he's going to be on the podium today. Hopping up there from 6th when he seems to be slightly off the pace is going to be difficult. Although the way we've been seeing some mistakes today, Justin, I wouldn't doubt that just keeping it on the island will pay dividends.
Yeah, the cleaner the race, the better in theory, right? If you end up making mistake after mistake after mistake, just snowballs. And you end up putting yourself on the back foot where it doesn't help you in terms of the racing line, doesn't help you in terms of the incident limit. But in most of these cases right now, it's right now for many of these drivers, they have to figure out where they can find extra speed. And the tough thing is, this is a racetrack where you need a fair amount of experience to be able to get good lap time in. After all, only 1 or 2 drivers have been able to set early times consistently in the 144s. Most of the field, interesting enough, starting to see some form of fall off a little bit on terms of their pace by at least a few tenths as this race has gone on already.
Interesting to note about Estupinan is, while he's been consistent, he hasn't been on the podium since race 1 at Daytona, and that was a win for him. Everything else has been outside of that, of those top 3. So this is not unheard of him running in 10th, but again, he definitely needs to be pushing it because some of the other drivers around him, Charlie Ferrer's ahead of him right now on the track, so he could gain. Aaron Sunday, Alan Owens, all drivers that are close in the points as we watch with Paul Cavanaugh on a recovery drive right now. That bright yellow number 2 car still trying to hunt down those ahead. That is Jeff Gardner currently in front.
Yeah, just trying to keep up. You see him just use a little bit of curbing, but it's obviously some frustration too. You have to think in his mind, knowing you got a good qualifying run, then you just looped it in the middle of the race and puts you behind. Alan Owens, by the way, is doing Alan Owen things. Yet again, another good race from the 401 car. He loves this style of racing. You'd have to think, because we've seen him really good in Canada, see him really good here today again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Victory over at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, victory at Road America. So 2 wins on him. Uh-oh, something's happened to Aaron Sunday in the meantime. I see him falling down the order. He's off the track. I think this is out of turn 3. And he's having to do a K-turn, a couple K-turns there to try and get it pointed back the right way without getting it onto the racing line. He is just losing hand over fist.
Yeah, absolutely disastrous for his championship post right here. And it's so easy to do this. Watch. Following on in the arrow wake of Owens, trying to keep up. Line to line. Bye-bye race car as he goes to the braking alongside the curbing. May have clipped it maybe even. It just loops him.
Someone needs to tell them they haven't used that chicane off to the driver's right since the late 80s. So it's since been straightened out, and it didn't help him any, unfortunately. He eventually gets it going. So he's one of those, I said, that was up in the points that now is behind Gilles Estupinan. So that helps out. Jeremy Hall still is, though. Charlie Ferrer is still ahead of him. Alan Owens still ahead of him. Yeah, Alan Owens impressive today, up 5 and on the podium. And just cruising out there front. What about Jeff Williams here? He's already got some damage on the nose of the car. You can see
seen him get
further incidents.
Yeah, he got punctured around a little bit. You see the start of the replay. Let's look at this one more time. Yeah, contact to the inside. Someone tried to dive it in. Contact to the front nose going to mean he'll probably have to come down to the pit road, maybe get some repairs at this point.
So Owens missed the first race. So that hurts him right there because that takes up his drop week. And then Portimao, his first race that he did show up, he only scored 10 points. So he's playing catch-up compared to those around him in that title fight, but he seems to be very, very fast. Now, did I see a little bit of a blink there from Charlie Ferrer?
He's been having technical issues all throughout the night, I've noticed, where not sure what the situation is, but he's got one of the highest, in fact, has the highest P in the field lead. Binkley getting punted around as he ends up adding some damage to the rear end with the hit to the tire barrier. There goes his solid run so far.
That's a bit of a shame. While he recovers, we want to give a mention to one of our sponsors, Princess Cruises. In fact, they are the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Keeping an eye here on Kuo and Ferrer because Charlie's making this a race here. He is putting the screws to that 880 and trying to see if he can sneak through and catch up to Marcel Yunus. He gets promoted at least one position thanks to the spin that we had from Chad Keeson. No, I think it was Jeremy Hall. So doing that. And this is Jeremy Main, who started from well into the back of the fields, but he's still chugging along as he exits out of the final corner onto the main straight and then lunges downhill to turn one.
He's trying to stay laser focused right now on his run. We have our first black flag of the day, and I think it's involving that send, by the way. We've seen Williams. Dragovic just got penalized for contact with the 517 and the 555. So that includes with Jeremy Main on top of it. So things piling up for the 09 on his race, the 009.
That was on lap 8 that one happened. He'll have to come and serve that soon. Checking back in with Al Buhaka. Jeremy Hall just in front of him. And then Charlie Ferrer up the road, still all stuck in this train. They're being joined by Estupinian, Chad Casion as well. So this essentially goes from 5th down to 10th before you have a break in these cars. Any one of them makes a mistake, you know that they're going to pounce.
Absolutely. And that's the big thing, making sure you're positioned to be able to take advantage of those mistakes. It's so difficult to build up the run. It's so much draft lock, you'd have to argue, for example, that sparks the difficultness of some of this grouping. So at this point, it's just following the ebbs and flows of the racetrack. It's just trying to make sure you don't slip up and make sure you're not that one that opens up the door, because you open up one mistake with the chance everybody else is going to follow.
Battle for 5th, and then behind them you get another train starting around 11th. Carlos Lopez is leading a group of cars. That's Mike Sachs, Louis Karchai, Casey McDonald, Jeff Gardner, all trailing behind him. And we're used to kind of seeing these trains at this circuit and get that track position. Doesn't take much to put on a good defense as long as you're nice and smooth. Keep it on the racing line. As Jonathan Kuo is certainly proving on with Carlos Lopez. We're only about a third of the way through the race, but we're well into the pit window. Granted, we don't expect to see anybody diving in, probably for another 10 minutes if anybody wants to try and break it up in halves.
Back to some of the action last week. Drivers usually were able to make it to around the standard 18-ish minutes mark, give or take. But fuel numbers became huge for the battle for the race win on the pro side, where the top two ran away. Then all it came down to is one collect of the fuel, swap the race lead, and no chance for a bounce back. So that's got to be in the mind of a few drivers at least, where they're just thinking, get to that mark, think, can I make it on fuel? And others at this point are saying, is there any way I can strategize my way a spot up here? Because obviously it's getting more and more tricky. Keep up Haka with one hit of the curb, just lost about 3 laps of gain.
Yeah, gotta watch out for some of those curbs around here for sure. He tries to hang on to Jeremy Hall. This is for 7th position between the two of them. Hall still where he started this race. Haka currently up 6 from the beginning at the grid. So we check back in with Kuo and Ferrer once more. Charlie still unable to find any opening to try and pounce on the 880. Got to give a lot of credit to Jonathan, the way he's been handling the start of this race. That's Kevin Orr that you see on the bottom screen. He is ahead of Paul Cavanaugh, who we know is slightly out of position.
Cavanaugh's doing a decent job of recovery. He's getting himself into this conversation for 15th, 16th spot. He's gonna be frustrated what he did in the previous run on the spin still, but the battle for 5th looking calm. The shade's starting to come over the racetrack. The track temperature, mind you, is actually kicked up as the event's gone on. The shade should cool the track back down a little bit.
Yeah, I did find out that apparently the detection point is on the start-finish line. I guess in this case it would probably be on the finish line itself, since they separate those at the Hungaroring. So it can give a bit of a false reading out there. This one, I don't think there's any specific shadows or heat laying on it, although the car is kind of going across it may have brought that temperature up over the course of the race. Yeah, it is dark shadows, and unfortunately that's going to be a dark shadow for Carlos Lopez, as he might lose a position to Mike Sachs, who snuck through at turn 1, switches back into turn 2. He chops, or wants to chop down to the apex. He leaves the door open, and here comes Lopez back at him. Says, you're not getting that one easy. You're going to have to fight for it. But there he finally has to give it up. Watch out for Karachai. He's got to run. Looks to the inside, coming up to turn 4. This is sketchy, going wheel to wheel through here. Mehmet has the apex, and he's got the position. 3 spots in 1 lap for Lopez as McDonald picks his pocket.
I think that's part with Lopez just trying to make sure he didn't have any off tracks there, didn't add any incident points. As a result, everybody just took advantage of him being very conservative on the track limits. He's able to zip on by, no issue.
So for Sachs, is this going to allow him to run away, or is Karachai going to try and hassle him now to see if he can sneak through? Because now Mike finally has that clear air in front of him. Does look like Mehmet is very strong right now. Thomas Doherty had a very similar issue we've seen a couple cars have, which is spinning off of turn 3 and then just facing an awkward position on the inside of that corner. In the meantime, this is what I was talking about with Karachai, just really pressurizing Mike Sachs here. He stays close enough. What we were talking about earlier, Justin, turn 1 being a prime passing zone?
If you're able to build up enough speed, absolutely. The problem is most people only getting the draft effect till right about that bridge. That's the difficult part, is you're going to have to get it done on skill and on raw speed. And the problem is this track, it gets harder and harder as the run goes on to actually get that move set up. So right now for Karachai, it's almost running in place. It's talked about a little bit. You take advantage of those who slip up, like we've seen with Lopez.
Your drivers talking during the club class race last week that sometimes the tires can get worn out here, especially on this part of the track here, where it's just now constantly turning left, right, all the way at the top of the circuit, essentially. So you got to manage those tires, manage the temperatures a little bit, make sure that you don't lose them. Kuo getting himself some distance now. Back to Charlie Ferrer, who continues to blink every once in a while. It's very intermittent, though. I haven't heard or seen anything from race control telling him to, giving him a warning about it. So that's the good news, that they're seems like they're satisfied enough with it up to this stage. Let's cross our fingers that it stays that way.
And you see just how much these sausage curves are pointing to the lines. If you hit those curves wrong, it springs you out to the right, for example, get you an off track in the case of one driver in that shot. Have to be careful. If you really want to get that line right, get an arc just right to where you don't slam into that sausage curbing.
Down into the braking of turn one once again. Kuo too far away for Ferrer to do anything. And you get another opportunity down into two. But again, we're seeing that 23 car having a bit of a struggle at this stage. What about with Albuhaka versus Hall? He looks like he is keeping him honest. Only about a car length back coming down through turn two. Switching back into three now. And up the hill we go towards the treacherous and blind turn four. Got to just tip the car in. Hope that it doesn't take too much of that inside curb and spit you out into the paved runoff. And so far, our top runners all navigating it successfully. And still we're seeing almost look like a slight defense there from Charlie Ferrer coming up into the chicane. As we see Jeremy Hall still losing a bit of time here and there, hundredths of a second on every other corner. Nathan Albuhaka, will he try and make a move at some point?
I think obviously you want to make a move eventually. The problem is it's going to be so difficult to actually do the move with the way things are shaping out in this pack. You're just waiting and planning and plotting, trying to get things sorted out here. Albuhaka gained a lot of spots in the early going into this race, absolutely. It's all stabilized when it comes to that momentum. Same for Casion. This pack is losing ground to Kuo and Ferrer. As this run goes on, though, those two in front have been able to set a faster average pace compared to everyone else as these tires get burned out. Albuhaka burning up a sen.
Oof, that was from a long ways back. Given space at the exit, all this might have been a bad move. Here comes Casion. Gets the launch off the corner. That'll give him the inside down into turn two. He's going to bang doors a little bit. Says, excuse me, sir. That is my P8 position. So he'll take that away. Albuhaka has to reset and pass a different car.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing. You go for a lunge and it doesn't work out. Guess what? You lose all that momentum again. It's seen time and time again, circuit after circuit. So you have to be able to really strategize. Is it a smart move to make that lunge, to make that pass attempt? If you can get it done, absolutely do it. If you feel like there's some risk on it, a lot of people are becoming adverse on sending it.
It's a really smooth move from Chad for sure. Guess you could call it a real Chad move from 379. But regardless, let's take a look at Ferrer and Kuo once again. You make a good point about them kind of separating from that pack. It seems like they're slightly quicker. They haven't run away by huge margins, but at times it's up to a full second ahead of them. They're going to be trying to take the halfway mark to pit in this time by with 31 minutes left to go. Charlie's still making sure he fills the mirrors, but he's going to have to get more aggressive on Jonathan at some stage if he wants to try and take that position, unless he does undercut him in the pit stops. And I've been seeing some more blinks here and there. It feels like it's been a little bit more frequent than prior from that green and blue machine.
Yeah, it's been hitting a lot, blink after blink. I wonder if that connection's going to hold on right now. He is one of the West Coast region drivers. West region driver should be on the racing platform. It's going to be interesting to see if it does stick out away as connections come through. I believe there was some talk on the radio involving it.
Speaking of interesting, Nathan Albuhaka, after getting overtaken, has pitted in. He's back out already and has emerged behind Aaron Sunday, who is yet to pit. That tells you how much Aaron lost with his mistake earlier on in the race. So Albuhaka, the first to blink, unfortunately coming out in a little bit of traffic, but it's just one car, and Sunday should be up to decent pace here. So hopefully this will work out for Nathan as we head on over to 10th with Mike Sachs. We wondered with the clean air, Is he going to run away? That's a negatory, unfortunately. Karachai still right with him. Casey McDonald, in fact, both of them creating a little bit of tenseness there for the 599.
Makes it where can't have any major slip-ups. Also, they're just going to take advantage very quickly here in this case. So, and we know Karachai needs spots right now. This is not a good run at the moment. It is filled with tension at the moment. To be able to try and move forward, Karachai needs spots, and he needs them bad to be able to keep up in these point standings.
Yeah, he's still 2 positions behind Estepanen. It's not helping him. Carlos Lopez pitted, by the way, so he's the latest to try and take that deep into the corner from Mehmet. Almost looked like he maybe was off the apex there a little bit. There we go. That's Carlos in his pit stall. He's joined by Lee Binkley, William Wolf. It's all starting to kick off now.
Interesting. Some people are going to the halfway mark directly. That's going to be the tough part, is where they come out. Traffic is going to be costly for some of these drivers here with the aero wash. You preferably want to get into somewhere nice and clean.
Lopez with a black flag here. Oh, cause of incident with the 878, and that's right after he finished his pit stop, so he's going to have to come back down pit lane. That is disastrous after it was looking like a good day for him. One thing that is not a disaster is if you call Princess Cruises, because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to PCA Concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So, back to Kuo, Ferrer, Hall, Casey-on. Casey-on now the one looking at the 060 after he managed to dispatch with Abu Haka. Abu Haka pitted, so that's why you don't see that pink car in behind them, but no change for position down into turn 1 amongst them this time by. Just a small handful of cars taking the halfway mark. We probably still have another 10 or so minutes that the drivers can last.
Yeah, just got to be able to stretch it out, get to that fuel mark, try and put as little fuel as need be in the tank to be able to figure out, can you get some separation here? And obviously, Kuo going to be probably need and take more fuel. Ferrer going to be able to save a little bit more compared to some of the others.
Let's see if I can dig up what happened to Lopez here, because we're looking at a replay. And it does say an incident with the 878 on lap 17. So that would have been, I think, when he pitted. So I'm checking. I found the lap. And, oh, interesting. Okay, he had side-to-side contact. Unfortunately, it blinked on me, but it was into turn 1. Andrew Elsom has already had a pretty miserable day himself, running into more problems.
Yeah, it looked like actually a bit of a hit of the curbing from Doherty on that replay, but at the moment, Jake Urbino, his lead has shrunk. It was around 2 seconds or so at one point. That lead is going away and fast. Here comes Dean Chapman.
Good catch, Justin. We'd kind of stopped looking at the lead. There really didn't seem like there was much excitement up there, but now we might get some. They've run away from third place Alan Owens by about the tune of 6.6 seconds. But they are free to fight amongst themselves now that Dean has caught up to Jake. We'll check and see where Dean sits in the championship hunt. He's definitely not up at the front. I don't think Jake Urbino is either. So for them, probably just a matter of looking for the win here, which means the gloves are off.
A few tenths a lap definitely gets things going when it comes to speed, when it comes to potential of this run. Urbino, for reference, once the drivers outside the top 15 in points coming into tonight. Best run for Garbino before tonight had been at Portimao in second place back then. So right now, traffic's going to hugely play a factor here to be able to get by cleanly. He doesn't want to get held up, obviously. He needs to be smart on how he approaches these cars.
Now's the time for Jake to pit in to get out of some of this traffic. So here's what happened with Carlos Lopez. Goes wide, comes back across the track. That's why he got a penalty. Was not listening to the spotter. He ran into another car as he was trying to recover. Yeah, I checked, and Garbino, P23 in the points. Chapman, P44. So yeah, this one is all for pride. They are probably not at all concerned about the championship. Yeah, that's a good angle right there to kind of show you what happened with the 25 car.
Yeah, snapped on him absolutely here, but Ferrer starting to get a little bit more scrappy up here. Got a little bit closer than he has been for a while. It's going to come down to the stop as Jeremy Hall has already come in.
He did indeed. So now that he had caught back up, they started to separate, did Charlie and Jonathan, earlier on in this race. Suddenly they've been caught up once again. So we see Hall now emerging from pit lane. Oh, it's going to be close if he can get ahead of Abu Haka, though. They were battling one another. Coming down to the first corner, he's having to play defense, and he's just barely ahead, so it works out for the 060.
Good placement coming out to be able to get the clean air. Now he's got to run. Good spot in front of Abu Haka as well, but Abu Haka trying to line things up. By just slightly later car with Hall out of the pit lane. Abu Haka, much better corner exit.
Side by side, come up into turn 4. Can't quite do it. Can he cut back underneath him, though? Round the outside of turn 5. This is a tough one. No dice. And by the way, another big development. Chapman has gotten by Garbino. We have a new leader up at the front. And I don't think, that was not due to traffic. This was due to Garbino making a mistake. I hope we can get a replay of this one, because this was a perfect pounce from the 610 car.
Garbino trying to pounce right back, but curbing can be deadly, to say the very least. Garbino's had this race completely spiral, and it's going to be partly with these curbs. Get the chance to look, because those curbs, you hit them, they cause you to snap around, and that's what exactly happened.
Garbino lost time to Chapman. Now he's made a mistake. Is he suffering on those tires? There it is right there. Trying to keep it within the bounds. Maybe he's getting close on incident points a little bit here. Remember, there's no drive-through penalty anymore. It's just a straight DQ when you hit 25. And that opened the door enough. Dean Chapman said, "Thank you, that's mine now." And he leaves, but by a small margin, as you can see in the live picture that is now full screen.
Well, change of events here, and Chapman started to actually run away with this Reds Racing driver. Looks extremely comfortable now that the long run's kicked in. Garbino, I'm wondering what's going through his mind here with how things have spiraled here. Go from leading by 2.4 seconds to trailing by almost a full second. Spent about 15-20 minutes.
He'll be kicking himself a little bit, but he cannot dwell. He's got to focus forward to try and chase back down Dean Chapman. Is he going to try an early pit and undercut him? Not this time by apparently. Back in 9th, Mike Sachs still needs to take a stop as well. Still looking for a lot of cars to pit in. And we're now just about hitting the final third.
Keep stretching it out. His controls starting to make thick calls on the radio here as these leaders try and sort more and more of this pitting traffic. They have Jeff Williams deal with, and Chad Caseyon's in.
So there's another driver that was kind of stuck behind others, making a move to see if he can upset the apple cart. And you're right, I believe that message was for Ferrer, because it sounded like they were talking about connection issues as we watch him on the bottom screen, forcing Kuo to actually go defensive. Down into turn 2 this time. Interesting.
Trying to find any way at this point. Don't blame him. You know you're faster a little bit, just a little bit, but the problem is you can't get the pass done. So at this point, Gotta try some different stuff if you haven't tried it already. See what sticks, right? Ferrer is a lot better in these tighter corners. But right now, Kuho's just been able to keep things planted in front of him.
I was going to say that Ferrer might be in the best position to challenge our top drivers. And he is close in the points, but Gilles Estupinian is now directly behind him. And that Karachai is only about 2 more positions behind that. So that has been separated by, or brought together quite a bit since I last looked. It'll be fascinating to watch what happens after the pit stops to give us a real picture of what this championship will look like. And Jake Garbino's the first to blink. He comes into the pit.
Not surprised with how much of an advantage he had up front for a bit. That's going to burn a bit more fuel. And now we'll have to see if he's going to be able to get things timed up right. For the amount of time in that pit stall, Chapman might have a bit of a better stop here. We'll have to see.
Ooh, interesting. Kuo also pitting in. Wonder if he was getting worse fuel mileage than what we saw for Charlie Ferrer, who was sitting behind him for so much of this race. But cards are now on the table for Jake Garbino. Where is he going to emerge? Will it be in traffic or will he be clear? Started from the top spot, so he obviously had the first pit stall. There's Kuo as well. And Garbino did come out in traffic. He's behind Kevin Orr and Paul Cavanaugh. That's not good news.
Yeah, that could potentially hold him up a little bit here if they battle, especially. Kuo absolutely going to be marred in traffic. In fact, he's just about in front of the traffic. Ooh. That was close.
Perfect timing. A tenth longer and he would have been stuck behind a bunch of cars. Ankerberg's on a just ahead of him, but Lervold, Casion, Hall, Abu Haka lining up behind him. We're hoping they could do something about that, but they are stuck amongst one another as we hop on board with Nathan.
Abu Haka's going to have to find a way to get through quickly, especially with Hall now up for grabs. You have Casion that's looking very sporty. Casion got loose.
Casion's looking all over the place on Lervold because Lervold hasn't pitted, but everybody behind him essentially has pitted. And Lervold going long is doing no favors for those stuck up behind him. Dean Chapman, by the way, did not pit this time by in response. Alan Owens has, though. He was a bit behind, so I don't expect any sort of leapfrog shenanigans from him.
No, at this point, it's getting really coiled up right now. Lervold, absolutely the friend to Kuho at this point. The SC Team Blue Machine coiling things back up as more others are in the pit lane.
Estupinian now pits. Mike Sachs pits in. Looks like Jeff Gardner is in as well. Lervold finally releases those who are stuck behind him back out on the track. Owens emerges in 8th position, about 3 seconds behind Garbino. Critically, though, Garbino 15 seconds in his pit stall. That's on the longer end. Some of the other drivers only in there for 12 or 13 seconds. If Dean gets a quick one, he could put himself well clear of Jake Garbino.
That's why I thought Dean Chapman might be in position for a much better stop here to be able to solidify up front, to say the least. This could get very nerve-wracking right now for him, where he's going to have to keep it clean. Cavanaugh, now the cork in the bottle with Kevin Orr, as expected on Garbino. Garbino getting held up.
Oh, this is going awry for Jake now. He cannot be fast with Cavanaugh and Orr just in front of him, both still needing to take their pit stops. Dean pretty much has an open goal at this stage unless he fails something on pit entry or exit or has a mistake out on track. I think he should have the measure of Garbino in this pit sequence. Just a quarter of the race left to go. You can tell just watching from on board with Garbino here. He wants by desperately, and Chapman is pitted in.
Chapman looking and waiting in the stall here. We'll have to see where he's going to go on the time. 13.9, 14 seconds, not bad. Where is the question? Where his competitors are at this point.
Urbino's well behind. Chapman beat him out with ease. It looks like now that the numbers are coming down, it's almost a 2-second gap difference. So yeah, Jake lost out. It was a gamble, but unfortunately he came up snake eyes on that one. Most other drivers pitting in, so this might just about be it. I see Eunice, Ferrer, Karachai still out there, and then Thomas Doherty, but Doherty's well down the order. That's pretty much it. 4 cars that need to stop.
Take some of those drivers absolutely out of contention. Charlie Ferrer's going to be the interesting one on position. But Yunez, very quietly, has been doing solid throughout this race. Where will he cycle out? He was amongst the drivers who started towards the front today.
Yeah, Yunez, I mean, have we really talked about him at all in this race? Looking at potentially a nice top 10. Ooh, Mike Sachs for black flag for an incident with the 331. That was lap 25. Ah, that is sad to see. He was also having a good run, so I'm not sure if we saw that or not, but that's going to shoot him down the order. Eunice pits in. Ferrer also pitting in. Karachai still waiting for him to get there.
Yeah, right now, so far though, Estepinen doing a decent job. Not exactly the job from the point. But right now, it's outscoring his competitors. That's the big goal right now. Outscore who you need to outscore. Get things solidified. Get a cushion built up. And right now, it's looking great now. Karachai is going to be interesting, though, because he's those just in for pit service now.
Yep, so those drivers finishing out. It looks like the podium cycles out to Chapman, Garbino, Owens, which is what it was before the pit stops. But obviously, we had a change for the lead before those stops happened. With Chapman making the pass on the track. Still, it's pretty much everybody now having finished their stops. That gives us a quick chance to once again mention our favorite sponsor, Princess Cruises. They're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. And as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 13, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 16 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So here's an interesting one. Did we cover that Ferrer is out ahead of Kuo right now, but he is caught up in lap traffic?
I was about to say, stretched out the field much longer, saved 3 seconds in the pit lane compared to Jonathan Kuo. Now the tough thing is this traffic not playing nice opens up the door for Kuo.
Watch out for this. He spent so long trying to make this happen. Charlie does not want to give this one up easily. How about Gilles Estupinian? He never ceases to amaze me. I've said it before, and I always, try to mention he tends to race better than he qualifies. Up 4 positions since the start of this race. He's in position to maybe try and attack for 2 more before this is over, although it's going to be difficult. And yeah, just race after race, he seems to somehow inch his way forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
McDonald here.
Went too wide, just soft looped it. And keep your foot in it, gets to loop it, and Jeremy Hall even harder. Got too much speed corner exit, slams the wall. That's going to demolish what was a solid day for him.
That is sad to see. We've only had 2 DNFs so far. Ben Bulkley, who we know retired when he just was not having a good day. And then Donald Manning was out a little bit earlier. I'm not sure what that one was about, if he had damage and didn't have a spare car waiting around or what. But regardless, the job is done. Only 30 cars left on the circuit in these final remaining 10 minutes of the race. Oh, and Ferrer's got a black flag. Connection warning surpassed. And Jeremy Hall has found himself, unfortunately, into the pit wall with a massive run. Just huge damage there on the exit of the final corner. So Charlie Ferrer, gosh, this is gutting. I hate to see this, but the rules are the rules, Justin. And if your connection is not good enough, everybody is bound to obligated to try and keep a good enough connection.
He had been warned several times in the session, and this is championship hopes over for car 23. Absolute frustration over the radio right now, but the rules are rules as Ferrer tries to stretch it out.
Yeah, he's staying out a little bit here, but he goes very wide. Maybe distracted with this conversation with the stewards. Kuo is going to take advantage of it anyways and get that spot back if he can break a little deeper down into turn one. He's not a nose ahead yet, but he's got the inside line coming down into that first corner, trying to cut back underneath him. No, it is not there for Charlie Ferrer. In fact, there goes Gilles Estupinian picking up a spot.
I think that's the point, just telling drivers to go. Connection issues absolutely destroying his chance to good race here at this point. Ferrer is indeed telling drivers, go around me, and the problem is he's now bottling up that Casion machine.
That hurt Casion more than anything. He wasn't sure what was going on there. Albuquerque as well. So that was very considerate of Charlie Ferrer in all that was happening. He knew his race was ruined, so he didn't want to hold them up. But this does allow Kuo to run away, but he's still got Estupinian on. And again, like a magician, Gilles might get a top 5 here out of all this. In fact, look at how close he is to Kuo already.
Yeah, this has turned into a great stint after the pit stops here. This is what champions need to do. Form well in the toughest of situations. Did not get the greatest qualifying runs. It's been a tough day. Now might finish with a solid day. You know who's also had a solid finish to this one? Paul Cavanaugh, you see in the bottom corner. It's also done well.
Yeah, after spin, Albuquerque and Ferrer. Something's happened here. Those two both off at turn 12. Surely something has gone amiss here between those two cars. I'm not sure if there was contact. It'd be awful after Charlie was probably just trying to find his way back to pit lane that he made some sort of mistake and had contact on top of things, because that could merit him another penalty. But he is going to try and serve his initial black flag for his connection problems as he loses tons of points. Remember, he came into this third in the points championship. His drop round was a missing race at Portimao, so this is going to have to count. And it was indeed contact. Ooh, that's not going to look good to the stewards.
And sent it too deep, right into the back of Albuquerque to spin him on out and himself out. Yeah, that's going to snowball things. Instead of at least the black flag situation right now. But at this point, Kuo's now running away from Estupinian. You know, all of a sudden with 7 minutes to go, only 4 laps or so to go. Estupinian needs to go.
Here's the onboard view of Charlie Ferrer. It seemed like he was on his normal braking point, but maybe just wasn't expecting Nathan to be braking early because he was getting some dirty air or something there. Whatever the case, the damage is done, and that costs Albuquerque a couple spots as well. Kartrai picks up a couple more thanks to that. He's now into 8th position, but still behind Estupinian, and will continue to lose a bit in the championship hunt. 6 minutes left to go. Our leaders still separated by about 2 seconds between them. So it hasn't really seen much of a battle between Chapman and Garbino since the pit stops. In fact, Garbino gained for a brief while, but he gave it all back in the last few laps.
I think he's absolutely buzzed his tires yet again. Seems to be good in spurts, on the short run at least, I should rather say, but that long run speed has been the issue all throughout this one. And that's going to be absolutely something for Garbino to look back on, where he's going to be thinking, how am I going to be able to keep up speed while not cooking my tires? Chapman, last time by, set lap times just about in the same realm as fastest laps of the race.
Exactly. He has been incredibly quick here, so he's definitely been looking after his tires over the course of this race. Still sitting pretty. And I was trying to do the math real quick to figure out how many laps we have left here. Probably have to do that when we get a bit closer than this. Ferrer has become our latest DNF as he is disconnected, so he wasn't able to correct that connection issue on his router, unfortunately. So that is it for him. Oh, no, excuse me, he was DQ'd.
Yes, and that's, correct me if I'm wrong, one of our first of the season. And that absolutely is toast to his championship.
We have had at least one other that I know of. I think that was at Road America. I'll have to double check on that. But yeah, it's rare that we do see that here in PCA. Everybody's usually very well behaved, as strict as they are. It takes a lot for them to give out a DQ in a race. That's very interesting. As we check on the battle for fifth as well. Kuo getting himself some distance between himself and Estupinian. And instead, it's Kaysion on the attack, trying to take that P6 away from the 21 car.
Yeah, Kaysion doing solid all race, up 6. Been running quicker than Estupinian though the past couple laps. Now the pace is broken down for him. Just has to be able to time things up just right. Get alongside the blue 21.
So I think we're going to be 2 laps to go at the line from Chapman. Now that I can have a little bit of math done in my head. It's easier to do with 2 laps than 3. Honestly, on this one, I can figure that much out. But don't ask me to do much more than that out there. Credit to Kuo. Man, what a race he has been having out here. Up 4 positions, looking at a top 5. Came into this one a little bit late in the championship, missing the first 2 races, and has been just filling in good race after good race these last 3 here. If he just can bring it home, this will do him no harm, although it's unlikely we'll see him try to fight for the title. Gene Chapman takes the 2 to go signal up at the front, while Kuo comes around to collect the popsicle sticks as well, while Estupinian has to watch the mirrors to try and keep Kaysion from denying him valuable points in his hopes for a title.
Yeah, but Kaysion didn't have a great corner exit at all. Had to lift out of the gas. In fact, only deeper braking can find him a little bit of speed right now to close up right now, and even then he'll lose that corner exit. So for Kaysion, might be running out of time if he wants to be able to try and go for a spot here.
Latest driver to raise the ire of race control is Casey McDonald. He gets a black flag. He's already serving it. It'll be, or is this also a DQ? No, I said a DQ,
no.
But I'm pretty sure this is just a black flag. Yeah, so apologies on that. There we go. Now it says a black flag. So we'll just add the F in and pretend we know what we're doing. As we come around to the back half of the circuit between this battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th.
There's the late braking we just talked about with Kaysion to try and close up a little bit. Gonna have to be careful he doesn't late brake his way into the bumper. But at this point, it's gonna take some bravery from Kaysion if he wants to try and get around Estupinian, take away a spot in these final laps here.
Jill needs these points. He's ahead of Karachai. Charlie Ferrer has been DQ'd from this race. Where did Sunday wind up after his mistake? Is he still out there, actually? He's running 22nd, which is probably going to be 21st in a moment, because he should be overtaking Casey McDonald, I think, once he served his black flag. It's still a horrible day for him. Jeremy Hall, down in 9th, is behind Estupinian. So, again, somehow, despite not having a win since round 1, Estupinian just manages to do what nobody else around him seems to be able, which is have a solid race.
Consistency wins championships once again. When you're consistent, you become a title threat. And we've seen consistency all throughout this campaign, track after track. But how about Team Chapman's run Speed has been there all night. Not too much fall. Chapman only a few corners away in the bottom screen from closing it out.
Just a couple more corners to go. Started this one from fourth on the grid. Had to make some passes. Kept it on the island. We said that was so crucial here today. What a job he's done in this 610 machine. He's got a little traffic in front of him, Jeff Williams, but I think that's a non-issue this late. So hailing from the Everglades region, the 610 driver brings it around the penultimate turn. Just has to make a nice 180 around the final turn of the Hungaroring. And he can see the checkered flag ahead of him. Dean Chapman is your winner in our penultimate round of Series 13.
Great run from the second half onward. Good run for Garbino, but Chapman was that much better after Garbino's fall off in this race. What a race for a driver in the 40s in points.
I don't know how he does it, but Estupinan still in this sixth spot is going to bring home valuable points and should still be our championship leader coming into the final round. What an incredible drive from that 21 car, just bringing it home exactly how he needed to and getting himself a nice top 10, just outside the top 5, but not sure he even pays attention to those stats. Aaron Sunday going to have to settle for a 21st as he is among some of the last drivers to be able to bring it home on the lead lap. In fact, I think 23 cars will see the checkered flag for all 34 laps of this race. Whew, this was an interesting one. This track living up to its reputation of being difficult to pass, but Dean Chapman didn't let that dissuade him. He made the overtake just when he needed to, as soon as that door opened, and he'll take the win because of it. Jake Garbino at least gets the second place behind him. I think he wanted more than that. It's a bit distant for Alan Owens, but he's trying his best to gain for a shot at the title. We'll see if he's within range once we do the math with this podium today. Marcel Yunus was in fourth, with Jonathan Kuo finishing in the fifth spot. After that, it was Gilles Estupinan finishing P6 and Chad Casion in seventh, and Karachai P8 and Jeremy Hall in the ninth position. Nathan Abuhaka has to settle for 10th. Paul Kavanaugh recovered back to at least 11th, but remember, he started from third, so again, another disappointing run for that 2 car. Kevin Orr was 12th as Mike Sachs finishes 13th. Lee Binkley, unfortunately, from 5th to 14th. Jeff Gardner, 15th for him, as Chris Costas was 16th, and Carlos Lopez, 17th. William Wolf in P18. Randy Lervold was 19th today, and Ankerberg's own gained 1 position to finish inside the top 20. Aaron Sunday gave up a great chance to try and gain in the points. He only gets a 21st today, as Mungia was 22nd, Jeff Williams 23rd, and then we get to our first car lap down, Keynes McDonald 24th, Andrew Long 25th, and Elsom 26th. Then it's Thomas Doherty 27th, Trankovic 28th, Jeremy Main 3 laps down 29th, and our DNFs for today, Donald Manning, Ben Bulkley, and Charlie Ferrer to wrap out our field of 32. So I think we've got Dean Chapman ready to chat with us. Let's see what he thinks of this race, because he certainly impressed us. Because Dean, it's so hard to pass here. You chase down Jake. As soon as he made a mistake, did you know that was kind of the one and only shot? Is that why you pounced on it?
I was watching him slip around a little bit out there, and I know it's a bit tricky if you overdrive this circuit, but I was actually planning my big move in the pits.
Ah, interesting. And you didn't have to in the end. You wound up staying ahead of him. In fact, I think you gained some time thanks to him hitting traffic in the pit sequence. Were you surprised coming home with a victory today, especially with qualifying back and forth, or did you feel pretty confident going in that you could top the steps?
Yeah, I was pretty confident I could get there. I know being in the top 4, 5, or 6, the guys are pretty clean, so you're not going to get too much danger out there. And it was just a matter of attrition and my pit strategy that I was hoping would work.
We're kind of looking at where you and Jake were in the championship. Obviously, you guys were both really far down. This late on and being so far down in the points, is every race pretty much I got to win and nothing else matters?
I wish that was true, Joe. No, I've been away. I've had a lot of family illness, and basically I've missed the whole series. So I'll pop in when I can, but otherwise, I'm just here like a journeyman.
Gotcha. Well, the journey takes you to P1 today. Congratulations on the victory.
Thank you very much, Joe. And if I could just say hi, shout out to a few people. Leaf for spending some time with me, and also Bryce Rodriguez and Michael McKinney. They did a great job of helping me through. Thank you.
That was Dean Chapman, your winner here today at the Hungaroring. He'll be ahead of Jake Gerbino, who finished in P2. And Jake, we were talking a little bit about Dean and how he made that move pretty much as soon as you made that mistake. What was going through your mind as soon as you had that bobble?
Yeah, it was just a momentary lapse of concentration, and that's all it takes around a track like Hungaroring. So he capitalized on it, but I'm just glad to have salvaged P2 out of the whole race.
You did, and both of you were very fast. You were far ahead of Alan Owens. But talk to us about the pit stops, because you stopped a little bit earlier than Dean. Were you hoping that maybe you could undercut him and get it back?
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping the undercut would work, but came out behind some traffic, a little bit of a tough time getting around. So ultimately, when he came back out, there was still about a 1.5 second gap or so. So yeah, undercut didn't quite work, but gave it my all.
Well, a second at Portimao, a second here at the Hungaroring. You're very close. When we head off to Imola, what do you think your chances are of finally getting to the top step?
Yeah, I love Imola. I guess being an Italian, that's kind of in your blood, or an Italian American at least. It's a very fun track. I gotta love some of those classic sections, Acqua Minerale and that. So really looking forward to it. Haven't driven it a lot in the wet, but looking forward to putting in the work and being well prepared again for the last round of the season.
Well, best of luck, and again, congratulations on a P2.
Great. Thank you guys. Appreciate what you do in the booth. And just want to give a shout out to everyone watching. Thank you all. And shout out to my coach, Eric Sutton. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you in Imola.
That was Jake Gerbino finishing second today, which will take us to third place finisher, Alan Owens, who's trying to keep the dream alive a little bit here, coming in seventh before this race in the championship, and a P3, Alan, while many of the other top runners seem to be a little bit farther behind. What's your thought with today's finish? Does this keep you in the hunt in your mind, or are you not thinking about any championship stuff?
I'm not really thinking about the championship. I think I'm too far behind for that. Just the race today, I wanted to run clean. I got my elbows up right at the start. Got a few spots, and then it was kind of quiet race from there.
Sometimes you can have that at the Hungaroring. Was that aggressiveness at the start because of this place's reputation for difficulty in passing?
Yeah, you have to take advantage of the start because it is so difficult to get around cars here.
Well, knowing that, then, coming into the end of the season, you're on a pretty good streak here. A win at Motorsport, a win at Road America, a second here today. What's Imola hold for you? Can you carry this momentum?
I think I can. I enjoy the rain. I enjoy racing in the rain. It'll be tough. An hour around Imola in the rain is. It's not going to be a pleasure cruise.
Well, I guess on that note, did you want to thank our sponsor before we let you go?
Absolutely. Thank you to Princess Cruises for sponsoring our season. Big thank you to all the volunteers at PCA and our commentators and RaceSpot here. And just a shout out to Upper Canada region. Thanks, guys.
That was Alan Owens finishing P3 today with an excellent drive, as I believe that wraps us up. So again, we want to mention that we're heading off to Imola, and as we heard, it is going to be wet there for this one, but that will be April 9th at 9 p.m. Eastern for the Club Series. We're not done here in Hungary yet. Join us tomorrow night, March 27th, for the Challenge class for the last race at the Hungaroring in Series 13. Big thank you to the steering committee at PCA Sim Racing, as well as to our team tonight, Ramiro and Justin. And a big thank you for watching tonight's broadcast of PCA Sim Racing. But I'm Joe Peak, and until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.